uh, uh, uh. Hello, hello. Yeah, yeah, thank you. I'll turn this up to regular volume. Hello, hello. So even if I talk in this volume, it still sounds really low on stream.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Can you hear me on the stream? We will be getting started in just a little bit. We're just working, getting everything set up. How does it sound now? Are we still reasonable? Okay, that works. Hey everyone on Discord. Thanks for bearing with us while we get this all set up. We will get started in just a moment. Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. We are going to be getting started in just a few minutes. We're just letting a few people on our online streams get loaded up. We're primarily going to be streaming on YouTube, so if you have questions, please be putting them in the chat there, and we will try to get those answered. And like I said, we'll be getting started in just 1 minute. Thanks, everyone. Hello everyone, thanks for bearing with us. We are going to go ahead and get started with the stream and this first masterclass. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Colin Potts. I am the head of AI GameTech here at Jabali. We're going to be giving you kind of a introduction to the Jabali Studio product today that you're going to be using for the Game Jam. Going to walk through a number of different features. Feel free as I'm going through this in the chat to go ahead and post any questions you might have. We can make this as interactive as we need to. And yeah, the main goal here is we're going to try to explain how to use the product so you can get kick-started and start making your games. And then as the jam progresses, we will be live, we'll be here. Kind of give us one moment as we're going to try to get the volume a little bit higher. Give us one moment as we're going to try to get the volume a little bit higher. Okay, hopefully y'all can hear me a little bit better now. Okay, hopefully y'all can hear me a little bit better now. Okay, we're going to start diving right in. Again, thanks for everyone for joining. We're excited to see what you're going to be creating. So I'm going to start here with an overview of the product, kind of how to kind of do some different features on the home screen. And then once we kind of give you an overview of some features, we'll dive in and actually start showing how to make something. So the core thing that we're going to have here is this main home screen on the where you have a prompt. This is where you are describing your idea. This is where everything is going to start for creation. And this is completely freeform. You just start with whatever kind of rough idea you want. Bali is going to be helping you refine that, helping you build from there. So you can start as specific or not specific as you like. And there's some choices you make here. If you have a particular engine you have in mind, we currently support 2 engines. So you can select one here, or you can just let Bali decide for you. Same with camera. If you want to make a 2D game versus a 3D game here, you have that flexibility. Bali decide for you. Same with camera. If you want to make a 2D game versus a 3D game here, you have that flexibility. Bali decide for you. Same with camera. If you want to make a 2D game versus a 3D game here. Okay. So some of the main things here is once you start creating games, they're going to start showing up here down at the bottom. As you can see here, I have made a lot of games with this product, so you're going to probably not have as many as you get started. And you can open up and edit any of these. You can also look, and they're going to have some different options from the community you can see from different games that other people have made. Kind of gives you some inspiration on what to do. We also, as we do these masterclasses and really other content, it's all going to end up here in this feed here. So if you want to go back and look at a previous class to kind of get some context, feel free to do that. So let's dive right in then to the main features of the product. I'm going to open up one of my games here. So the primary way that you're going to be working with your games is through chat. The idea is that Bali is a kind of your AI co-producer. It's going to be helping you build these games. And so your primary interactions, like I said, are going to be over here on the side. You're going to be asking it to do something. Like if you see here, I had a problem. I was like, hey, this isn't working. And you can see that Bali's going to be like, oh yeah, let me check what's going on. It's going to start reading some logs, figuring out what's going on. And it will figure out the bug, write the file to fix it, rebuild to make sure that it's all working. So there's a lot of kind of strong capabilities that Bali is going to have there. It is able to write any of the files, read any of the files in the project. It can see the game live here. It can see the logs, so it has kind of an idea of what it is that you're playing. So you can say things like, hey, this isn't working, or can you help me instrument this so I can understand what's going on? And it will kind of proceed through that. It also has access to the full build and everything, so if something's going wrong, it will be able to kind of self-heal and help you on that point. But like I said, yeah, main thing you're going to be doing is chatting here. You're also free to customize a little bit about how Bali works with you. Right now, I have Bali set in what we call creative mode, which is where Bali is going to be free to do a lot of stuff, really take control of the game. I can also put it in, say, the other extreme, which would be cautious mode. Maybe I'm really happy where my game is, and I want to be making sure that Bali is not going to go wild and start changing stuff. So you can kind of swap modes as you're moving through there and be flexible in that sense. There's also collaborative mode, which is kind of like a balance between. It's going to sometimes ask you for confirmations, or you can go full autonomous mode, which is similar to creative, where it's just going to, you give it a plan and it will start building. as we have the game here, you can see it's on the right here, and I can kind of play. I can start stepping through different pieces of it. So all of those aspects will be there. I can also dive in. I can look at all of the assets that I've made for this game. I've been working on this one for a little while, so I'm going to have kind of a good number of different pieces. We have images, we have audio, some different font files that I've loaded in. All of the images and audio that you're seeing here are completely generated by Bali. So these aren't things that I went out and generated. I just said like, hey, I need some images for this, and it will start kind of filling out all of that. One of the key things here to getting Bali to work well there is like you want to provide enough context for what kind of game you're making, what is the art style, what is the audio style. As long as you're kind of clear about that at the beginning and you work together to get that set up, then you can make some really simple prompts like, okay, now it's time to add in backgrounds, now it's time to add in a sprite for the player, stuff like that. You can also see any of the scenes here. You can open up, edit those. You also have full access to all of the underlying scripts for the game. This game in particular is a Godot game, so you're going to have lots of GD scripts. Wally has a good understanding of this and can dynamically kind of help you with the files. You can even here, if you can type manually. If you make mistakes, it will highlight the mistakes for you, and it can automatically fix them. So it is quite happy to work with you. You're free to kind of make some edits if you want, or just kind of see what progress Bali is making. In particular, I can go here. I can open up and see the version history, and I can see like what has Bali actually been doing on this particular file, and if I needed to, I could restore one of the versions there. It tries to be as informative as it can about like the different edit that it's making. And yeah, so you can see here like all of these edits were by Bali versus if you make an edit, it will be tagged differently. Another set of features you have here is this is going to be your publishing information. So this is like the title of the game as it's published, the description that people would see when they're on the product page, the poster that people would be able to see. The game ID is also kind of the way that we internally are identifying these things. So if you run into any problems during the game jam, one of the first things that we're going to ask you is like, hey, what was that game ID, so that we can kind of jump right in and help you as efficiently as possible. Another thing I want to highlight here is we also have a number of different plugins that are going to help you to build particular things. So we have a full multiplayer implementation. It's client relayed multiplayer, but you are welcome to kind of add that into any game. It's all hosted by us, so it will do all of that communication for you. And again, Bali is fully able to integrate it into the game. So you don't have to go here and do anything special. You can just say like, hey, can you take this game and make it multiplayer for me? Another one I want to highlight here is the LLM Games SDK. So this is our kind of proprietary LLM stack where it will add in AI features to whatever game you want. This is mostly for turn-based games. There's also different aspects that it can add there, but it will kind of allow you to create live content as your games are running. Also in the settings here, you have kind of some of those set features that I was talking about where you can choose the different behaviors, and there's the descriptions here in case you missed that. You can customize all different sorts of settings about how it's interacting with you. You can even, if you want, go here to the instructions. We have some power users who really love to add a lot of detail here, being very specific about how you want Bali to create things for you. For instance, you might say, I like really small files. Like I don't want any one file to be, say, more than 50 lines. You could add then that instruction explicitly here, or if there's a particular way that you want Bali to interact, you can clarify that as well. Like if you want Bali to always come up with a plan first, put that right there, and that will change the behavior directly for you. And this is per project, and it's dynamic, so you can change it at any time. So the instructions that you want maybe at the beginning of the game might change as you move along. So I want to briefly come back here. A couple other features that you might find useful. I talked about the logs. You can always open those up here and see them kind of live as you're going. This is going to be one of your main kind of debugging tools. You can also see the build output if you want. Most of the time that's not going to be particularly exciting. Also, if your chat's getting long and you really want to reset it or something's going wrong, you have kind of a reset option up here. And then you also have a bug report option. Hopefully you won't need that one, but if you do, we will try to get on that immediately. Okay, now I want to jump in to the kind of creation flow. So let's start here. So here's a game that I just started. And so my prompt here was super simple. I'm just saying like, hey, I want to start with some 3D chess. Bali hasn't really started building anything yet. The first thing that's going to happen is you notice that this is a pretty minimal prompt. Like obviously I haven't really expounded out on the idea here, but it's specific enough for it to know what's going on. It's like, and the very first thing that we're going to enter into here is what we kind of call our design phase, where Bali's going to ask you a bunch of questions, like what exactly are we trying to build? How are we going to kind of differentiate this game? What's going to make this game fun and different? And you could say, you know what, I don't want anything fancy. I just want a chess clone, and that's fine. It'll do that as well. But even within that, it's going to say, like, what are we doing in terms of player progression? What are we doing in terms of the world, the setting? Any details about the visual style that you want to use? Because, again, 3D chess, fairly generic. It's also going to ask me kind of like, in that first version that we want to build, what are the main things that I want to see first? Bali can help you kind of build the game to that first playable version and beyond, and kind of let you keep iterating so you're really kind of building something very polished. But it's good to kind of help prioritize together with Bali to know what it is that you want to prioritize first. What do you want to really see and kind of get moving on? And if you notice here on the bottom, it has some like suggestions of what I might try to do there. Like we could outline the core game loop, kind of some details there. For completeness, I want to mention that we also do have, those are all kind of Godot games that I was showing off. We also have games that are built using Phaser. They're going to work exactly the same. You're going to have that main chat interface. You're going to have scripts. The main difference is that for your scripts, those are going to be like more JavaScript and stuff. Yeah, so that's the high level overview of the product. The next stage we're going to move into is I'm going to dive into a little bit about actually some ideas about how to prompt efficiently and how to start working with the product. Let me take a brief pause here to check and make sure we don't have any kind of active questions in the chat. Yeah, so I see that we have a question about multiplayer games. So that is, as I mentioned before, we have an entire kind of SDK built into that. All you have to do is prompt Bali and say like, hey, I want to make this multiplayer, and then describe kind of like what you mean specifically for your particular game. And it will dive right in. It will handle all of the networking, all of that code for you. And when you publish your game, we will handle all of that infrastructure. So when it's live, we'll handle all of the matchmaking and everything for you. And all of that's provided in the SDK, and Bali knows fully how to use all of those features. So you can just prompt and ask for kind of what it is you want to create, and it will help you do that. Okay, so let me dive right in here. We're going to start working on one of these games. Let me open that up. Okay, so I'm going to start working on this project a little bit here and kind of give you a flow and some ideas of how to go around prompting so that you can be most successful. Again, feel free to drop questions in the chat as I proceed if there's specific aspects of that you want to know about, or there are kind of any details along those lines. So, diving right in, we have, let me start kind of up at the beginning here to show some examples. So, to kind of give you an idea of what a flow would look like, is part of this game that I'm building here is the idea is that you are an archaeologist. You're exploring a dig site, and it's kind of a top-down 2D RPG, and then as you find different pieces, it opens up a puzzle, and those puzzles are things that you're gonna like solve. Like there might be like a little like matchmaking one. There's one where you have to order geological phases of the Earth. It's a little sciencey, but kind of a fun play on it. So one of the things that I want here is like, okay, I had gotten the initial kind of scaffolding of the game done, and so I wanted to start working on the puzzles. And so one of the things that I was specific about here is that I'd already roughly laid them out. And so I'm saying like, hey, I have these in the game design document, which is the main kind of, if you're unfamiliar, that is a gaming term that is about kind of what is your plan? What are all of the details, your visual style, what is going to make your game fun, kind of all kind of encapsulated in one place. So I'm saying like, hey, we started doing that out. Can you kind of update that and start fleshing out the design of these puzzles? So Bali started thinking for a little bit and kind of started building that out. And then what we got is like, okay, here's the plan. I'd already identified what the puzzle types were going to be, so it's kind of summarizing, giving more details about how we might start kind of progressing in here. One of the main things that Bali is going to do in particular, based on kind of how I've prompted here, is that when you are making a game, one of the core things that you want to consider is what is your player progression. So you want your players to be challenged. You want them to kind of have an experience where it's not easy, but it's not too hard. You want an appropriate challenge, and then you need a payoff. You need a reward for each of those kind of steps within that process. And so what Bali's talking for me here is, what is that particular progression going to look like? And it's like, okay, sites 1 through 2, the first set of puzzles, so these are all going to be like easy. There's going to be hints available. We're going to start like teaching you how to do all of these different aspects. Then in the next phase, we're going to kind of get rid of some of the guidelines there. We're going to lower the number of hints, but there's still going to be some. And so you're going to be kind of a little bit more challenged. As we kind of go on to like a harder level, later ones, maybe the hints are kind of leading you in the wrong direction. Part of the story of this game is that as this paleontologist, you're uncovering this new type of dinosaur, and so we want you to kind of be challenged. And so later on, it's going to be like leading you in the wrong direction. Maybe you're trying to not discovering the right thing. And then at the very end, like no more hints, and it's you trying to figure it out. And it's kind of, this is the map that is built out with these different sites, and as I start the game, I'm only going to have like one available, and so those are going to be the easy ones. So after I come up with that plan, I'm just saying like, yeah, this is good, let's execute, and then Bali will go and start kind of autonomously going for it. So it's going to start generating this set of images. This is for the first puzzle, where you have to take all of these images and kind of build a skull out of them. So it was able to kind of like decompose that into parts. And it's just going to kind of keep executing across those different aspects there. So yeah, and then the next thing I was going to say is, when Bali's going to make updates and come back, and it's going to do some internal testing and say, you know what, I think this is ready, I think this is working. The thing that I would highly encourage you to do at this stage when you're working is actually go play the game, test it, see what's working. Your main role is to lead the creative direction, but it's also to kind of be part of the playtest and be like, yes, is this fun? Is this not fun? Is this matching the vision that you have? And then providing that feedback back to Bali. And it doesn't always have to be complicated. Like here, I'm just saying like, hey, I'm not sure how this works. And so Bali can kind of infer from that, oh, hey, there might not have been the right UX clues in the game to tell the player how they're supposed to be kind of proceeding here. And it also can like go back, look at those logs, figure out if there was an actual bug. Like maybe it thought it added some UX details, but they weren't kind of displaying for some reason. And it can self-iterate, it can kind of fix that, we can keep moving. It's always going to kind of provide a summary once it's done with a section. And then you can keep iterating from there. I think we have a question, so let me hear what that is real quick. Yeah, so there was a question, two questions. First, one about uploading assets, and one about uploading kind of a plan. So the answer to both those questions is yes, you can do both of those things. Let me step through kind of them in order. First, on the asset screen, you have the ability to upload here. There's going to be this button on the top right. You can just drag and drop stuff in there. When you drag and drop onto here, it will automatically place them. The default place is that it's going to put everything when you're on the asset screen as well in the assets folder. No great mystery there. However, once you've dragged and dropped, you can customize that on a per file basis. And you can drop an entire folder in there. You can drop single files. If there's something that Bali doesn't support, it'll let you know kind of what the issue is. But we support a very large set of 3D files, audio files, image files, really kind of most things you would probably be looking for. Fonts, and that'll all be kind of imported here. But yeah, it will, like I said, it'll put it directly into assets as the main place, but you are fully able to customize that location. And you're not fixed anything. If you upload all of these files and you decide, yeah, I'm not happy with this, you can either go through the UX and you can open up a particular file, go over to the details panel. You can move things here by kind of editing the location. You can also prompt Bali and say like, hey, I just loaded a bunch of files into assets/fonts, and I'm not happy with that location. I want to move them to just maybe a top-level fonts folder. Just make that prompt right there, and it will go ahead and it'll move all of those files for you. The other question we had, hopefully I answered that one. If I didn't, please just respond in the chat, and I'll get back to there in a second. I'm going to go ahead and proceed to the second question here, which was about uploading a plan. At the very beginning, when you're in that first planning phase, there should be a button that will show up that says just upload, and that is where you're kind of able to upload a full file. You're also able to just, those text boxes don't feel like, because it's a small text box, you're only allowed to put a small amount of text. Feel free to paste kind of like large chunks in there as well. So you don't have to have a full document to upload. If you just have text, you can feel free to paste it in. The other thing that I would encourage you is that if your plan there was to say, go talk to another agent and have it come up with a plan before you and paste it in, I would encourage you to do that directly inside of Bali. It's going to have a better understanding of what our platform is capable of. So while another agent might lead you a little bit astray and there's going to be a translation thing, you can just go directly here and it'll be a bit more of a complete experience. And it's fully able to build out an entire plan. For instance, this game I started with a fairly minimal prompt. So it was kind of right here. And then what it has actually built out from there is I have my game design document. And so this is the type of file that I imagine you're looking at uploading, that it was able to kind of create fully autonomously. So you can see that it's breaking down the different aspects of the game, just like I talked about. So we have, for instance, our 5-act structure for our story, what's going to be happening as we're progressing through these different pieces. So it's not just about the progression in terms of the difficulty of things, but it's also there's a cohesive story that we're trying to tell and we're trying to like move the player through. I also, like, it's documented, like, what is our complete game loop? So it's, as I've said before, this game is divided up into sites. And so for each site, like, what are we doing? So we're arriving, we're exploring, we're solving the minor puzzles. It takes us to the main puzzle, and then it takes us to a discovery scene, which is our payoff. A little cut scene, a little bit of evidence, and that's what really, like, drives that story forward. And this should be customized per game that you're working on. So, like, this is just one example, but Bali is able to really kind of build out this document dynamically with you, and so I would encourage you to explore that feature. And if you have specific questions there about like how to prompt, how to talk about these aspects, feel free to put that in the chat now, or feel free to reach out on our Discord at any point, and I'm happy to, or myself and the team are happy to kind of work with you on how you might explore that more. So while I have this open, I'm going to talk a little bit more about your game design document. This is one of the main ways that Bali is really going to be communicating with you what the plan is. What is it building? What are you trying to get to? So as I talked about, we had like the core game loop in here. We had the story in here. We're also going to talk about specific mechanics. So we talked about that core loop, which is the dig site. But we also have this world map mechanic where we're moving through different pieces. Within each site, we have puzzle systems that I briefly mentioned before, where there's like specific puzzles here. We're going to have to build out this cutscene system that I mentioned. And talking about like what do those look like? Like, for instance, here I want them to be more kind of comic style, where there's not video, but just like kind of glimpses of different images. Another thing that I wanted here kind of as the game is this journal/notebook mechanic. So that's going to be kind of a way of like tracking your progress, seeing what's going on. As a stretch thing here, we also have these NPCs and dialogue. This is also something that we could potentially integrate the AI into at that point. And then, so that was kind of the initial plan. As I started working on this game, it's going to start adding more and more details. And so above, like, or how I mentioned that there were the different puzzle patterns, like here, when I came back later, it's going to start like actually filling out all of these details. So this is a live document that's going to keep updating kind of like as you move things. And it'll even keep it a checklist for you. So like you can see here kind of where I am in terms of the overall plan for this game, how I'm moving and kind of progressing through different pieces. Yeah, so that's a little bit of context there about like how you can go about that planning. I would highly encourage you to spend time on your, especially for the game jam on that stage, of really being clear about what it is that you want to build and working together. You don't need to have that idea in advance. Like let Bali like help you there. But start with your concept and just kind of chat back and forth before you kind of dive in too much. And then when you're ready, just tell Bali to get started, and you can start kind of prototyping and exploring and getting there. The other thing that I would encourage you to do is I would encourage you to publish frequently during the jam. So one, that's going to give you some explicit versions that you're going to be able to move between. So you can say like, yeah, every time I'm happy with some feature that I've added, yeah, let's publish that. Kind of give ourselves a marker. That'll make it easier for you if you like, say you were really happy with one mechanic and you start adding something else and you're like, I don't like this. Well, if you had published a version, you could hop right back to that previous one using our kind of restore system. Either using the UX, or you can explicitly prompt Bali and say like, hey, you know, I was really happy where we were previously, and it will go and make those changes for you as well. Speaking of publishing, you can either ask Bali to publish for you, or we have a button up here. Either one works just fine. So you'll end up with this dialogue. Most of this is a rehash of that setting screen. So you have the title. You can just leave this as is unless you wanted to modify it. I assume the first time you publish, you might want to set it, but after that, maybe you don't. You can update the description if there's anything that you wanted to change there. Like maybe the game has changed significantly, so you want to update that. You're also free to update the poster or provide specific instructions about how to do that. And the other thing it also can do is you can kind of record some specific release notes. If you asked Bali to publish for you, Bali will write those release notes. You can provide them yourselves, or you can hit that button like I just did, and it'll just say like, hey, this is the change that's made since the last one, which right now is not huge since the last version I published. But yeah, when I publish here, let me go ahead and publish this version so you all can see what that flow looks like. I'll give you a quick kind of a quick progress thing. How long this takes is partially going to depend on how big of an update that you made, because it's going to have to build it, going to have to package it, upload all the required files and everything. But normally it should be kind of a pretty quick process. And then as soon as this is done, it'll give you a link, and you can go on the web and play that game. One word of caution there, as you're kind of like publishing frequently, if you publish a game and then you go on the web and you're like, hey, this doesn't look like it has that last feature that I just added, just check your browser cache. Browsers can be very aggressive in trying to cache and optimize things. And so while we do employ some cache busting to try and make that a little bit smoother for you, you never know whether there might be some browser that you're using that is really holding on to that old version for you. I think for this one I actually had added a bunch of fonts and audio files, so it might take a moment for it to finish up all of this upload here. Let me check to see the chat real quick to see if we had any more questions at this point. Yeah, so we have a question about how to prompt for a story. And so here's an example. This game I started out and I had like this general prompt. And then I said, I was very specific that I wanted to kind of like walk through some of the sections and the story beats. So I'm explicitly calling out, in this game, the story is important to me. So you want to prompt and communicate that, like, yes, I want to talk about story. This is the area that I want to focus on right now. But I was going to say, great, let's start talking about it. And then I can go in and start being kind of specific. So here, in particular, I'm talking about how I want one story arc for the game. So I'm kind of clarifying that at the beginning. And I'm talking about specific beats that I want within that story. So when you're prompting Bali for that story, you want to highlight what are the important parts of that story to you. And then you can also be flexible and say, like, what's a good narrative structure that's going to fit this? Or maybe you want there to be a twist, but you don't have an idea of what you want that twist to be. You can just kind of say, like, hey, we should go with, like, 2 acts, and then I want a big twist in Act 2, but I don't know what that is. Do you have any suggestions? So kind of the key there is the first thing you're communicating is that I want to work on the story. The second thing you're communicating is the specific details about that story that you care about, whether or not that is the structure of the story, particular things that are happening with the story, maybe a tone that you want to kind of work with there, and then you can kind of go from there, and Bali will kind of start working with you. Let me know if that helps, or if there is something like more specific in terms of a particular story that you're wanting to tell. I'm also happy to dive into some more detail there. We also have our team that's monitoring the chat, and so you can kind of put the question there, and our team can help out as well. Yeah, so we have another question now about editing assets. So I talked earlier about how we have the ability to create assets. So all of these assets are kind of created. But the other thing that we also have is, beyond creating assets, you also have the ability to edit assets. And so when you ask Bali for something, there's no like particular buttons or any magic things you have to click. You can just say, like, hey, take the player image. Like, this is an actual prompt that I did. I said, hey, take this player image and generate some walking sprites for it. And it will take that image and generate a second image for you. So you can do image-to-image generation in that sense, where it's like taking one image and creating something different from it. You can also do direct edits. Like, if there's a particular image, it can recreate that for you, either using the current image as a basis, if there's like a particular edit. Like, maybe you like this background image, but there's some specific change you want. Like, maybe you want, I don't know, darker skies. It's like, yeah, this is good, but I want it to be sunset. It can do an image edit there. And it also is fully capable of replacing an image. So you can say, like, yeah, I wasn't happy with that. That didn't capture whatever style, theme, idea that I had, and it can replace those as well. So it's fully capable of doing things. You can even do some compositing. So I could say, in this image here, I could have prompted and said, take my player and put it onto this image. So it can take kind of multiple inputs as well when it's doing that creation. Hopefully that answers the question for asset creation. Yeah, so we had another question about size of the initial prompt, and if we have a particular recommendation within that space. So it depends on how clear your idea is. So I would say, if you have a very clear idea in your head, I would err on the side of making a larger prompt, like really kind of brain dumping all of the aspects that you want. And so it could be quite large, like we're talking like multiple paragraphs. If you have more of a loose concept, I would recommend starting smaller and making it clear that that concept is like rough. And so explicitly saying, like, hey, here's where I want to start, but I'm not sure exactly where I want to go. And so the length of your prompt should really be depending on kind of how clear that idea is. And if you are, for instance, like very clear on that, also be explicit. Be like, I want exactly these details. So I realize that's a little bit of it depends. But in this case, it really matters kind of what it is that you want to be creating. You can also always start with a small prompt and just say that, like, hey, there are a lot of details that you care about, and Bollywood can then like prompt you for those later. So just because you start with a small prompt doesn't mean that you can't go back later and kind of add in more details. Another thing that you can also do is you can open up that game design document yourself, paste big chunks of text into there and say like, hey, I made some updates. Can you take a look and kind of smooth that out? And it'll be happy to do that for you as well. Okay, hopefully that's answered all of the current questions in the chat. Please keep those coming. We're happy to keep answering them as we move along there. Yeah, so let me kind of hop back out here for a moment, back to the play screen. So I think we've covered kind of most of the high-level features. There are a lot of smaller things that are here that can also be more helpful. I'm going to briefly cover just a few of those just so that kind of you have a complete idea of all the things that Bali can do. Just so that as you're prompting or as you're doing different things, you can kind of be aware. So as I mentioned earlier, Bali has complete access to the project, all of the files. It can look at the images. It can check like how long an audio file is. It can regenerate things. It can search through files. It can do find and replacing in files. It can edit files, create files, copy files, delete files, move files. Kind of really anything that you want to do there, it should be able to. It can also check the syntax of a file. So it has a full access to like static analysis tools for running those checks. Regenerations, we talked about image-to-image generation, audio generation. So it's kind of a very large set of things that it can do. It can install plugins, check the state of an installed plugin, reinstall things, upgrade plugins for when we push out updates. So kind of a large set there. Another thing I want to call out is you might be building your game for mobile. We have kind of a device emulation tool here where I can start emulating a particular device. The current game I'm making, I was kind of planning it for desktop, so it's not going to adjust well, and I can see that immediately. And so I could then say prompt and say, hey, I really want this to be a responsive layout, and it can start fixing that for you. This game probably would work if you turned your phone sideways, but definitely some aspects there that you can work on. Also, just a note, all games are muted by default. When you start up, that's because a number of these games can be pretty loud. So we found that generally people preferred them to start quiet. But if you're sitting there and you're like, wait, I can't hear anything, why can't I hear anything? There's a mute button right here, and you probably are muted. And it will also clarify to you if whether or not it's muted, or like right now, it's saying, hey, no audio is playing anyway. So it can clarify those details for you. So yeah, just want to kind of head that one off. A couple of the minor things you can do. At any point in time, Bali can build things for you. You can also rebuild things. It will also prompt you if you're looking at a view of the game that's out of date. Like if a file changes, it's going to say like, hey, just so you know, you're playing an old version, but it's not going to necessarily auto-update that for you if you were trying to wait for some reason. And another feature here, you won't be able to see it, but we have a run button here. Run actually, as you can see here, is going to open up in a new window. And it's going to be kind of mimicking what that browser experience is going to look like. In particular, if you're making a multiplayer game, this is going to be useful to you because you might need to be running multiple instances of that game so that you can actually kind of check the communication going back and forth, which is one of the kind of more difficult things to trace there. Okay, I think we've pretty much covered all of the features that we were planning to here. We're going to check the chat one more time to see if there are any more questions. Otherwise, we're probably ready to wrap up and let everyone start building. So yeah, we'll give you just a moment to ask those questions in the chat. So we have a few general questions about just the jam structure, which one we'll start to answer for you in the chat, but also I'll answer here. So the jam starts in about 8 minutes. So we'll get started then. We have another question about, can you submit multiple times? Yes. Feel free to submit as many times as you want. We will just take the last submission. Or if something goes horribly wrong and you're like, no, I don't want the last submission, I want the before that, just let us know. We're happy to accommodate that as well. But yeah, there's no limit there in terms of making those submissions. We're just gonna grab the latest version for you. And we'll be able to monitor, like, you can feel free to, for instance, keep working on a game after the jam is over. It just won't count for the jam. We're going to take your submission for that time. And we'll be able to kind of just grab that snapshot and evaluate that for you. There's a question there about adding, using your own key to connect to a different model. That feature will hopefully be available soon. We do not currently have that in the current version. If there's more people interested in that, feel free to upvote that, and we can prioritize accordingly. We do have a set of models that are available. I didn't go through all of them, but that's a thing that you can choose. One thing I want to emphasize here is that it's all Bali. Bali is your kind of game producer that's going to be working with you. But you can kind of swap out some of the underlying model choices, both for some of the chat and code generation, but you can also, for audio generation, image generation, etc. We have a kind of a large library of those available. And if there's any that we're missing that you really want to see, give us a shout out and we'll see what we can do. Okay, I think that's good. I think we're gonna wrap here. We will, like I said, continue to be on Discord throughout the day. So feel free to kind of keep asking questions, but we're gonna wrap up this kind of kickoff session. Thanks everyone for attending. I appreciate it, and excited to see what everyone's gonna build. Thank you.